Today we're working on a 2010 Chevy Malibu 2.4 Ecotech dual overhead cam, and the problem is cranks up, see the check engine light, gauges do wacky and it cuts off. So with the key on, let's read the codes. Intake cam position actuator circuit open, exhaust, intake again, exhaust. Alright, let's try to erase them. Alright, no codes remain. Let's try it again. And car cuts off. Let's read the codes one more time. Same thing, same thing. Alright, no problem. Cover / air intake off. I left the mass airflow sensor put up so that way I won't throw any codes when I try to fix it. And this is the Ecotech VVT variable valve timing, kind of like Chevy's knockoff of Honda's VTEC. Here are your solenoids, and this is the intake, and it even says intake and exhaust. You could also note that this is the intake one because this is the intake side, and therefore this is your intake cam, exhaust, all that. What to do is adjust the cam timing for better economy, or when you're getting on it, and it'll advance and retard the cams to give better performance. So we're going to test them out to see if they are bad. Okay, what we're going to do right now is test the solenoids to see if they are open. Just a regular voltmeter on ohms, and yes, they are stuck open. They should read about 12 ohms. That's the intake, and that's the exhaust. Super easy to test. Just take the two test leads and you'll see the two connectors right there. Test those, check ohms across them. Like I said, they should be about 12 ohms. Here we have the old ones out, and you can see that one is exhaust, that one is intake. And even the aftermarket will tell you which one's which. Now, there's always a bunch of dirt down there, so be careful, don't knock it down in the engine. And you can't mess these two up because the connectors are different. Okay, so we have the new ones in. They're 6mm bolts, but the old ones had a 10mm head. The new ones have an 8mm head. Who knows why? So now let's test the new one. Resistance. Do the intake first. Looks good. Looks good. Fire it up and see what we got. Okay, we put the cover back on because it has to run. It's still running rough. Put everything back together. Obviously still got a misfire. Disconnected the battery for a good little while. And come inside. Still got a little bit of a miss, but there's no check engine light. I did check fuel pressure and it was around 60. So we'll double check. No codes. Cylinder number 1 misfire. I just took that off. I took the coil out for a second just to see if I could get to look what the plug looked like, but I didn't get that far. So I'll erase this. I can still feel it stumbling. Alright. Let's read the code again. No codes found. Still got a miss. Let's try to read the codes one more time. No codes found. So I took it on a little small test drive and we got a cylinder number 1 misfire detected. So we're going to swap some parts around and see what we can come up with. Okay, so I'm still getting number 1 cylinder misfire, and I pulled the plug and yeah, it's a good bit worn out. Number 2 was the same. I've already swapped coils, so that's not the problem. I went ahead and checked compression on number 1 just to make sure, and that's very good. So now I'm gonna swap the spark plugs and put them back together and see what's going on. For a little test drive, and let's read the codes. Cylinder number 2 misfire. Okay, so on the first test drive after it was throwing cylinder number 1 misfire, I swapped coils and the problem didn't change. This time I swapped spark plugs from 1 to 2. So now number 2 has a misfire, so I believe we need to go get a set of plugs. So kind of determined that maybe the plug gap a little bit. So we're going to put these new shiny auto lights in and see what it does. Okay, so we changed all the plugs, took it for a test ride, and now let's read the codes. No codes found. It's been a while since this vehicle has had no codes and it's running right.